So the weathering continues. It doesn't really start because I've done a lot of the weathering within the paint work itself, and you can see an element of what I've done there. I've filled in this, I've done some more painting this white bit here, and I need to fill in this white area in the back. But this gives you a hint here. What I've done, just started with some basic weathering stuff of what I need to do over the entire spacecraft. So if we look at this wing section here, you can see hopefully the white's not washed out too much, but that's what the result is of that wing with the underpainting and the different colours going in and out. Well, what do I have to do after this? Well, I have to do some chipping. Now it's actually not more chipping, it's more abrasion, it's wear and tear. And so that's what I've been able to achieve with this inner wing, which you won't see, so it's a good test bed. And as you can see there, I've been able to wear back and do lots of streaking and chipping and wear on both the black and the white surfaces very simply, and I've put it away unfortunately. Here it is actually, just using a sanding stick, because what's beneath the black areas is the white plastic and also the red brown primer, so you can scratch a little bit and go down to the red brown, or you can scratch a little bit more, particularly on the exposed surfaces, little greeblies like this one, and you get the white plastic, so it looks like it's being chipped back to the white paint. Conversely, for the white areas, I just chip that back and scratch it there, and it goes back to the red-brown primer. It really stands out. It's a really high contrast, but that's not enough. I need to take it to the next level, so that's where I went with this. So what I have here, and I'll use my little sanding stick as the pointy thingy, is I've now used basically dry brushing, and what I wanted to achieve here was more of a metal effect. Okay, so I wanted to almost show that it's chipped away to metal. So if you can see on this surface here and here, all I've done is I've just used my old dry brush and a couple of oils. And the reason I went for oils for this was because if I make a mistake, I can remove it. And so I've got Starship Filth, which is the real sort of dirty brown grey sort of thing, steel, which is obviously a metal effect, and black, which I'm going to explain in a little bit. And all I do is just thin it a little bit with the enamel thinner. This is why I went to the care and attention to glue this all in, so none of these parts are under stress, so the enamel thinner won't do too bad, but it's also just all surface stuff. I'm not applying massive quantities. So what you can see there, you can see that I've done a panel line wash using the black and the Starship Filth over both areas, but I might, for the black areas, I've used a almost straight black, which looks good. I might keep that up, but I might actually change it up because I can tell in the reference photos a lot of the upper fuselage parts, it's more of a light grey in all those panel lines. But yeah, what I've done is using the dry brush and literally taking it down to almost nothing on the dry brush. I've just gone over the edges there and enhanced those chips and the wear, and I think it works really, really well. I've used the Starship Filth in the corners of things like this, which again, this won't be seen on the finished model, but it's good experimentation to get it in there, and some washes around, and you can see the panel line wash there. I just used a very, very small brush, not much applied there, and then quickly wick off the surface and even make some general staining and so forth. And if you have a look at these engine inserts in here, I've done a combination, dry brushing, some washes, and again, that's what I used to do the upper area. It needs a bit more of a brown sort of a effect on there, some more, but I really like how the Starship Filth really, really works. It's definitely come to its name. So what I need to do next is replicate this all the way across the airframe, and that's going to take some time, so I'll get stuck into that and report on that in a little bit. So the chipping, abrasion and wear and tear is done over the entire airframe. I've done underneath on the fuselage there, you can see it's chipped back nicely there, and also on these surfaces here, so anywhere where it stands out and there's greeblies there, hopefully that's coming through, it's not getting too washed out, the white. And you can obviously see it at the front there on the nose. So that's done all the way around, and I've added a little bit more weathering in there. It still needs a few more layers. You might see a little bit of red, or a sort of a candy red metallic. I'll explain that in a minute. And I've painted in the rear with a couple of tones of white and gold grey actually for the underneath. Which, yeah, leads me to the next point. I need to do the metallic chipping and the washes, and I'm going to try using a little bit of, where's the label? Use a little bit of buff for this one, for the black bits, and I might also put a bit of buff and maybe some of the browns in the top there. So the great thing about this kit, I think I explained at the start, is you can do the weathering, you know, all these pieces separately, and as you can see, so that's what the wing's going to look like there. I've gone really hard on those. I haven't actually attacked the cannons yet. I've got a point with that. So what I've done with those is I've actually done something a little bit different. So I've done one with a white band. I've seen reference photos of stripes on some of these. So I thought I'll do a white band, and on this one, hopefully you can see it, I've done a sort of like that candy red metallic. It is actually quite shiny on there, and that's going to be like one that's in primer, but I've also attacked the ends of the gun barrels and other areas with that same colour, and you might be able to see it here on the top as well. Sort of a overheat sort of factor, and I've done that as well on the exhausts. Okay, I've started to do those now. Notice on the exhausts, they don't have as much wear and tear, because all the reference photos show that these ones actually just get straight metallic chipping. So that's what I'll be doing with those. As you can see, I've got quite a few pieces to get on with it and do some dry brushing. So I've got the all brusher steel there, and I've just put a little bit in my aluminium tray, and I've got my dry brush here, and basically just load the top of the bristles, see that, and then take off as much as possible. I'll start over in this corner, and I'm really deloading that brush, because as you'll see in a second, and let's start with an engine. Okay, so we'll start here, and I should only be getting there. Look at that. See, there's still heaps on there. Can you see those effects there around the rim? All right. So I can go even lighter. So you'd think you've unloaded that brush, but oh no, it's still there. So the trick with the dry brushing, I believe, with this particular subject, don't do everything. Just don't do everything. Just do what makes sense. Things that really stick out are going to get worn to bare metal. If you dry brush everything, it's going to look like a toy. So let's not do that. So I'm only going to do little bits here and there. So if I was to do one of these front nacelle things, there we go. The front lip, I think, is going to come under the most damage. And in fact, on the reference photos, they're almost white. So I'm really going to get and also the splitter in there and the front, because that just makes sense. Even though Star Wars weathering doesn't make sense, why would there be streaking? Let's have a look. We'll do a little bit on the back there, particularly on the forward fins. And so it's really good now. I can see a lot of the variation. I hope you can in the camera too. With that black, I've got reds, I've got blues, I've got greys, and the whites. So I'm going to, where I've sanded it back to the white plastic, I'm just going to enhance it a bit more with some dry brushing. So I've got a lot to go ahead with here. Let's see how it looks on the engines, which you'll never see. But let's just put some effects there. So that looks pretty nice. And just on the edges there. So I've barely got anything on my brush, and I think that'll do almost the entire aircraft. In fact, let's get out the actual fuselage. And doesn't this look weird? I've got all these parts here, and in fact there's more here that you can't see off camera. And once I've done this stage, and I'm going to keep them here, and I'm going to do my all washes, which I'll use the same tray. I'll just mix up some Starship filth and some other things. Once that's done, I'll let it dry, then I'll just assemble it and we're done. So I'm going to really hit the nose of the X-Wing here. That's a little bit too much. So the great thing about this, because it's oils, I can just take that off. So I thought I'd show you using this thin down buff wash on the black parts here. So I've done the wings, and now I'm just going to apply them here to the panel lines on the side of the fuselage. So I'll try to make it fairly thin, but I think it's going to work really well to highlight the fact that these X-Wings worked in a very dusty environment. Now it does look a bit messy. I have made a few runs. Let's just zoom in a tad more so you can see Upside down, Miss Jane. Wrong way. Okay, there we go. All right. Sorry, I'm doing this on the fly, but so I'm going to use, like I said, the buff on the black, and then on the, I could do that a bit neater, I guess. It needs to be thinned down a little bit. It's a little bit too thick. Yeah, it's a bit too thick. Yeah, I'm going to leave those splodges there, because what I do is I come back later, and I've done this on the wings. So I'll just do that for now and just show you how it's working. So I think that really fits how the colours are going on the... I've lost my brush. How the kind of colours are going on the reference photo. So I'm using one of my wisp brushes here. Now I should really let this dry a bit longer, but what I'll show you what I'm doing is you just use downward strokes like that to make some very subtle streaks. So yeah, I'm taking away a bit too much there, but you get the picture. So what I might do is just apply this overall and then come back, and I can also use it to make sort of more localized spotting of dust collection and so forth, just by tamping it in like that. But I think that's going to work. So I'll let this dry for a few minutes, and you can still see there's some spots showing there where I applied it a bit too heavy-handed. So all I'm doing is using my wisp brush, and I'm just blending them down, because all the reference photos show a lot of streaking here. So this will be the first layer, and what I'm basically doing, the brush was moist with enamel thinner about 5 minutes ago, but it's pretty much all evaporated off, so this just sort of brings it all down. So we're getting a nice streaking effect. I've done some here. I'll just continue to bring this in. That's a little bit too thick, so I'll just brush it off. So the great thing with oils is if I don't like this, I can just remove almost all of this and just start again. So I'm getting not a bad effect there. So I'm just blending it in. So that's looking not too bad. A little bit too heavy here and there, so I'll just take that back a bit. And I might have to go in there with a slightly damper brush, but so far that's looking okay. So just move along to here. So this is going to get really stark really quickly when I put the Starship filth in this white area, but that's pretty much it. I should be able to get away with just using these two blends, but we'll see. I might apply some local streaking here and there, but I'm pretty happy with that. So it's looking really battered and worn, and you know, it's not the I haven't picked out an exact vehicle because there's no real close-ups of any of the what are they called, cavern angels of these actual aircraft, apart from the one that's crashed on Jedha. But the ones that are on, I don't even know what planet they're on in Andor. As you can see, I've also added a bit of a localized sort of a wash in there. So yeah, the brush is going completely dry, so I'm going to have to give it a bit of more dampness and just slowly go around. So next stage, we'll do the whitewash. I thought I'd start with the darker washes by showing you what I've done with the landing gear. So as you can see there, I've added a few little bolts, and I've painted some of those oleos, I guess what they are, in some sort of metal finish. And on the main front landing gear, I've added a brake wire and more bolts and things. So what I'm going to do is I've made up a mix here of just a little bit of black, 502 black, but mainly it's Starship filth, just thin with some enamel thinner, and I'll just use that to go over some of the details and the bolts. There's no clear coats on this. It's just pretty smooth paint, so it'll just run nicely and then easy to take off. So I'm just going to put a little bit on those chrome bits. Normally I would use Tamiya Smoke, but this is pretty close enough to it. So that's done. And then with the main landing gear, which has got a fair bit of detail, if I get that out of the way so you can see. So we've got some bolt heads there just to mess up. I've done a bit of chipping here and there, as you can see on those legs. But I just want to dirty up and add some shadows underneath, particularly at the bottom. That was a bit too much. Just plonk some in there, and on the other side as well. Pretty simple stuff, just a basic wash. And I can remove or leave as much as I want. I've also added some detail, the foot there, just a few more things. Alright, I'll let that set aside to dry for a little bit, but what I'm going to do next is tackle the white bits on the fuselage. So while I've got it here, let's go. Let's see what it looks like. So it's in my camera, that might help. There we are, and nice and filthy. So again, I'm not going to be too careful with the application here because I'll use this to lay down some streaks. So yeah, we're getting close to the end here. This is one of the favourite parts I love of these Star Wars kits, is I can do so much with them so quickly, even after fixing some of the faults with some of the parts. So let me go through and do all of this. Hopefully you can see some of the streaking that's happened there and those black bits. It's really coming together. So it's been about a day or so since I've finished doing all the oil work over the X-Wing, so it should all be dry, it should be all nice and done. So I'm just going to seal it all in with my favourite flat coat, the Gunze GX113. Just thinned a little bit with Mr. Leveling Thinner, and then after it's all dry, I can remove the tape and we can assemble it. Assembly has begun. The droid's in, I've got all the 4 wings on, and I've got the lower engines on there. I think that's looking quite schmick. Overall, now I just need to put these upper engines on, and hopefully I can do this on camera. These LED lights just cables get in the way all the time. So this one slots into there. Hopefully, I've lost my tweezers. I need to get the tweezers out. Okay, so always fun when you do this. So I just got to move that LED cable. Probably best if I actually cut them off, but you never know. One day in the future I might redo this kit. Okay, so let's see if we can get that to stay in there. This is why I like to do this sort of stuff off camera. No, it doesn't want to go. All right, let's try it again. So I'll try that to start with. And then shove them in underneath there. And I think, nope, still got a little bit of a gap there. So I haven't used any glue to do this final assembly. These parts just all should snap on, so that's looking all right. Get the engine, and that just snicks in there like that. Let's see if I can do the other side, or I might have to move off camera because this is really annoying me to try to keep this in focus. No, not that F word. Okay. That looks a bit easier. Yep, that's better. Alright, so just feed that LED in, and I actually need to turn this on to close these wings up. So this is the last chance to see on the inside of the wings there. The front on, I think that's looking pretty good. Can't be an X-Wing in flight, but for some reason I'm doing this not in flight. And I've just found a couple of flaws. Look at that. I've got to paint the end of those engines again. Have I done it for the bottom? Then almost covered. All right, that's easy to take off and fix up. Okay, let's get I've got to get this on because I need to close this up. Famous last words. There we go, eventually. So I've got these plugs here, I've just got to fill in. Just going straight like that. They're quite a different colour, aren't they? Might be another touch up to do on those. And this plug here, which I think goes, nope, other way around, upside down this chain. Okay, so that's looking alright there. Right, time to put the landing gear on. Which all landing gear was like that, just schnick schnick. Now before I do the front, I've got these aligned properly, these landing gear doors. So I'll do that one, do that one. They do tell you to put the gear in first, then the doors. But it is quite tricky. Oh no, there you go. So it's all press fit. It's a shame, like I think I've said in another video, it's a shame Bandai didn't release this as a non-moving option, because you know this is a really lovely size. It's a good size thing. Alright, we've got the front landing gear, and that should just plonk in like that. Doors are on. Oop, wrong way. There we go. I'm going to put her on her feet. What's missing? Ah, cannons. Alright, let's put them on. So that's what it's going to look like. I reckon that's looking not too bad. Hopefully these are straight now. I had trouble trying to get all these cannons on straight there. That's fairly straight, I think. I think the problem is with one of these other ones, so I might have to re-bend it. So there's that cannon with a white band and just a basic one there. So there we go. It is done. I will actually just touch up the those engines again, just the base of them. But there we go. Let's wrap this up with some photos.